Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. And an interesting day of Call of Duty, certainly for good and for ill. Some good matches, but well, certainly once again the stream delays in the CDL marring honestly what was a pretty good day of action, all things considered. But intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you were new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. First of all, you can see right here, Dashy rocking up to the arena here with the headquarters. Well, feeling ready for their match against the Rokkr. A pretty impressive showing from OpTic indeed in the end. But well, it took a while to get there, that certainly has to be said. This was the game number 1 of, well, as you can see, Dallas Envoy versus the Royal Ravens. A great series on the whole. I was expecting this one to be really good. It came down to the wire. London, if anything, should maybe have got over the line, but Dallas managed to clutch up. But this is really where things kicked off. So, game 1, I mean, as you can see, Ravens at this point are at 149 to 136, but Dallas have a nice little situation here over towards the P2. Are not exactly guaranteed to get this time by any means, but as easyMac saying, like, in a sense that Dallas had a decent position here. However, Vivid lags out of the game, has some sort of issue, and the Ravens go on to close this out 3 versus 4, as you would expect them to. Then, of course, well, we get the whole delay situation that happens, and they're trying to figure out what's going on, and whether Vivid can connect, or with some sort of issues. I'm not exactly sure what the issue was, but then, okay, Dallas Empire maybe wanted to be on a different server that it was better for them, and they didn't want to, you know, of course, the ping differential between North Carolina, where the London guys are, and Dallas is always going to be something of an issue. They were trying to find a server that made the most sense. Eventually, they settle on one, but it takes a very long time, and it's honestly super frustrating, right? I mean, like, to watch this from a fan perspective. I suppose, in the States, it wasn't too bad in terms of time zones, but like at the end of the day, it's just not a good look. I don't know how many other esports, I don't watch too many other esports nowadays, but I saw people discussing on the Reddit about Valorant and such, and how their production quality is just so many light years ahead of where Call of Duty is right now, and these types of things don't tend to happen in other games, at least as, well, as badly as it does right here, right? Where you have to, well, they're playing another series, New York versus FaZe, for like, I mean, they played it for almost an hour, to be honest, this delay was, and you've got no idea when it's going to end, you have no idea when the map's going to start again. It's just one of these things that, you know, I understand it's not necessarily on the CDL, but other esports don't tend to have these issues as regularly as Call of Duty seems to do. Maybe it's just because we watch it all the time, and therefore you see it more often, but seems like production quality in a number of ways is somewhat lacking, and maybe that'll be helped to some degree when we get back to LAN. I'm sure it will indeed do, but yes, Apocalypse Harbor will be getting a full replay, so some good refereeing decisions on the day, certainly. And Azuma says, write this down, we got a lot to talk about at aBeZy Nasib, because Dallas Empire and Royal Ravens pretty much play an entire game of Connect 4 before the game actually does re-begin. And well, this is how it finishes off at the end. This is kind of funny actually, because well, Ravens were basically about to lose, as you can see right here, like it was basically all over. And Ravens say right here, we just rejoined the lobby and the lobby has been reset, but thankfully Connect 4 has a pause feature which for whatever reason cannot be engaged in the respawns, and also couldn't be engaged in the search and destroy in well, later in the game against OpTic later in the day. Even OpTic Chicago versus Minnesota Rokkr that we will dive into. And this I thought was pretty funny in the chat. Hey Gunless, it's the fans here. Can we watch the games please? Not ads. Say, well, all the fans in a row. Thanks so well, Taylor Gang, for pointing this out to me. Let's dive into things then. So finally the game does actually get underway, and it still goes the same result. Ravens get the better of them. Afro had a great map 1. Honestly, all things considered, Paul X is a good map 1 at least statistically. And yeah, to be fair, Ravens are pretty good. This map number 1 here on the Apocalypse Hardpoint in the replay. Get over the line, and honestly, I'm very impressed with Afro. When you watch this guy on the map, you just know that he's a very difficult kill. He plays his life incredibly well. You can just watch his arrow on the minimap and just know this guy is honestly a really talented player. That's great to see for London. Alex as well was really back in form. I thought maybe he'd have a couple of slow series to start things off, but he was looking really good as well. However, the game 2 Search and Destroy, this actually came out from Grow before things even did kick off once again. Obviously, well, no one was really having a good time watching it. But then we go into this Search and Destroy, and Afro clutches a nice 1v2 here as well, so certainly showing his prowess. And this was really a map that, I mean, honestly, Crimsix and the guys, Crimsix has been playing on these maps for years, and certainly was taking advantage of his Black Ops 2 knowledge, you can argue. But London got up 2-0, they have a nice advantage in this series, but there was a couple of rounds that went the way of Empire, which really maybe they shouldn't have done, a couple of 1 versus 1s that the guys on Empire managed to clutch up in very impressive fashion, to be honest. And once again, London's kind of jitters in the closing moments do come into question, right? And we maybe haven't seen that quite as much as of late, but we saw it in the game 2 here, we saw it in honestly the game 4 as well, even though they never even should have got close to winning that one. But the Garrison control was dominant by the Ravens. 21 in 9 goes Alex. He won an absolute monster tear, to be honest, and this wasn't even close. And I'm pretty sure this was the 7th loss in a row. As you can see right here, that came up on screen and he wasn't too happy about it. 7 game control at losing streak in a row for the Dallas Empire. That's not something I thought I'd be saying a couple of months ago when this team was very, very solid in control indeed and were clutching up all sorts of rounds. So 7 streak in a row, I mean, that's a really bad, right? We saw saw what Toronto were able to do when they went on their like 13 control winning streak. They were winning championships, right? So it's kind of like that swing mode where a lot of teams are very good at hardpoint, very good at search and destroy. You can split with a lot of teams. Losing the control in every series is largely a recipe for disaster, and it's very rare that you can come up against a top team and beat them 3-1 if you're going to lose all your controls. It's going to take some game 5s, and they of course can certainly go either way in a league as competitive as this. This game 4 was absolutely ridiculous. I'm pretty sure London were down 246 to about 160 at one point. They get a lot of time on the first hardpoint, they rotate to second, get pretty much 40 seconds there, and they effectively play it perfectly, right? London play perfect Call of Duty for a couple of minutes towards the end of this map, and it looks like they're going to make one of the, I'm pretty sure this would have been the craziest comeback we see so far this year. But once again, I mean, I'm not necessarily saying London choked this, because I mean, Dallas Empire honestly, well, were the team that probably choked this advantage, but still, London, like, they did all the hard work, right, for all these minutes, making the perfect plays, played such good Call of Duty, trapped the Dallas Empire guys in their base, won all the key gunfights. But right here, that 2-piece that ILLey gets should just never happen, right? Like, the fact that ILLey gets that 2-piece and then the rest of the London guys are put in a tough spot is just, you know, at the end of the day, if you're London Royal Ravens, you've come all this way back, you know, now at 244 to clutch up there, and well, for the Dallas Empire to clutch up there is very impressive for them, but also for the London guys, it's like, okay, we just can't be getting 2-piece like this, to be honest, lads. If right here, ILLey gets a 2-piece from the top caution as it is right there, that's not really something that can happen. But still, at the end of the day, they do a great job to even bring this one back. So, you know, it's tough to say it's tough to speak too harshly on them. But once again, the kind of clutch factor for London doesn't necessarily seem to be there. And then they go into the final map being a standoff, search and destroy, and once again another dominant fashion victory here once again on standoff. We're pretty sure every single time we've seen it played so far, we've seen it 4 times played so far this weekend. It's all been a dominant fashion, and well, once again here is Dallas Empire. Crimsix and the boys who played a lot of it back in Black Ops 2. I'm pretty sure ILLey was winning Charles on that game when he was like 11 years old. So yeah, very impressive stuff. And as Afro says right here, despite a phenomenal series of him individually, you know, that 5 versus 4 1v1 he had against Crimsix, if you guys remember that, is going to haunt me. But still, a very impressive showing from the London guys. Could not quite get over the line. As Crim says, first win is always going to be the hardest after not even participating in stage 3, he says. Glad we got the win. This new London team is solid. So that group is honestly chaos right now, especially with Mutineers beating Toronto as we saw just yesterday. And well, another match then in the other side of the group is going to be the OpTic Chicago versus Minnesota Rokkr. Game 1 was very interesting, and as Gunless says right here, it was a massive lead for OpTic early on. Looked like they were going to close this one out with not too many issues. They were up like 100 points, 180 to 80 or something at some point or another. But Moscow's one of those maps you can string some mills together, and that's certainly what Minnesota Rokkr managed to do. However, right at the very end, right at the death, on that P1, for some reason they get a load of kills. All the OpTic guys are spawning out. Envoy breaks in and gets a 2-piece, but you could argue he shouldn't have even been able to get close to the hill runners. Gunless is saying, why did they just allow them to get on the hill? That was a throw if I have seen one. A big P, says Scraps. And well, this is how it closed out right towards the end as well. Envoy manages to get on the hill, get a 2-piece, and the rest of the Rokkr guys are caught kind of in no man's land. The time is counting down at this point on the game clock, so yeah, going to be tough to get too much done. But yeah, arguably Minnesota Rokkr should have completed what would have been another crazy comeback on the day. And then we go to search and destroy. This was very funny, to be honest, because well, as you can see in this final kill cam right here, Envoy gets a 3-piece with the Raffica, killing the guys in the corner, whatever this gun's called, the Diamat, that's what it's called in this title. But you can see, like, this is well, we talk a fair bit about the OpTic corner right on Moscow, where these guys have had some difficult times. This could be the Rokkr corner here on standoff, where they line up and Envoy takes them all down in the corner right here. So you certainly something to keep your eyes on going forwards. Haven't really seen anyone ever stack up in this corner, and it happens in the very first time that OpTic and Rokkr play once again on this map, after of course their legendary battle before, where we also had the OpTic corner come into effect in that stage 2 member. I'm sure you guys remember. However, we then get a classic situation, to be honest. I'm pretty sure Dashy actually explains it here in just a second. Couldn't get out of my start screen in the S&D. That was weird. There's some sort of glitch. I think a couple of you guys are pointing out to me that sometimes you get this glitch where it's not like your controller is broken, but you can't get out of your start screen. Methods kind of talks about how you can potentially fix it right here. But yeah, still something which another technical issue. And interestingly to me, they didn't pause the game then and there. We've seen the search and destroy at least pause feature come into effect a little bit now. I'm pretty sure we saw it. I forget who it was, but it was Dallas Empire were playing someone or other, and they actually used the pause feature in the game. Now, this was up 4-2, of course, OpTic were at the time. If they'd have paused it there, then they actually could have probably restarted the game. But the problem is they let that round play out. It was 4-3, and then they just end it in the middle of the next round, which pretty much meant, okay, they thought, okay, really, we should just go from 4-2 again, and therefore we probably have to just end the game and restart it, which another kind of unfortunate thing on the day, to be honest, all things considered. But well, they do close out. But yes, technical issues marred all the games, right? We had an hour delay for whatever the hell was going on Dallas Empire versus well, London Royal Ravens the first series of the day, I'm still not really sure. And then, of course, this second series, thankfully for us over in Europe, OpTic decided to close this one out emphatically, and therefore the game actually finished not too late on in the day. But still, another technical issue. Once again, kind of like, okay, come on, lads, like, could we actually get a series to be played out without some sort of issue? And it also makes it kind of difficult to try and plug the numbers into the Breaking Point website when you actually have to try and add things up across multiple maps that were played, and you get this little tab on screen here, which honestly is never the greatest look for the Call of Duty League, to be honest. But it's Call of Duty at the end of the day, we do still love to see it. This was then at the end of the game 3. I mean, this was dominant, right? It really felt like OpTic were gathering momentum, and despite the relatively close game 1 at the death, OpTic looked really, really good here, right? It's tough to say, to be honest, which team does this tell you more about? Does it tell you more about the fact that OpTic are still firing at all cylinders right here? And well, Dashy went, he had some good moments, of course, but it was really Envoy that came to life at the end. As you can see in this clip right here, 21 in 11 at the time. Pretty sure he gets like another 3 kills. He had some highlights with the pistol, of course, highlights with the 74U, and here's some highlights with the cruise missile, and also the Krig at the death of this raid controller's complete domination from OpTic Chicago on this map. So very impressive all across the board from the OpTic guys. But yeah, does it say more about them continuing their great streak? Of course, they had like a 10-map win streak at the Major before they lost to Ultra in that Game 5 Round 11 fashion on a raid Search and Destroy. Was in the end. But Rokkr, with this new change, of course, a lot of talk about honeymoon period so far this season. We, of course, have not seen that for this team. And despite that map 1 being close, at the end of the day, it was, honestly, OpTic Chicago coming away with a dominant 3-0 streak to finish things off. And well, these were the statistics on the series. Green across the board for the OpTic Chicago guys. It was, Formula who had great damage in map number 1, but Envoy in the end, plus 17 over the series, a 1.35 KD. Very impressive stuff from the guys in OpTic Chicago. So good start to OpTic to stage 4, certainly, and their next matchup is going to be on Sunday up against Atlanta FaZe. That's going to be a great one, especially with how OpTic are playing at the present time. And take your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm. I know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and I'm growing the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care, and I will see you next time.